Hello and welcome back to the new player series for Crusader Kings 2. So, in the last episode we got ourselves into a war and we got a war declared upon our liege. And basically this time we're going to go help out with a war, just to do a basic how to raise troops, that sort of thing, what we need to be watching out for. So, first things first, we need to see what kind of land we have. So our land is here, as we have previously discussed, it is this amount of land. So, when we go to the military tab up here, you'll see that we have two options for raising troops. Well, actually there is a third option for raising troops, but I would like to say very rarely will you use it. If you click on a province, you can raise up the troops directly here. You can say, I want troops to be raised in this province right now, and then you have to do it for each one. Like, you have to click on each one and raise up troops individually. That's slow, and it's really not a good idea. So, we have this, and we have two options. From domain, so this is from the land that we directly control. So right now, this would just be all the troops from Dijon. Next one is from vassals. So what would this be? This would be all the troops from Dijon. This would be not the troops from Dijon that are ours, but all of our vassals from Dijon plus our other vassals' troops. So basically, it's just all your vassals that are basically everything you don't control, but is still underneath your realm. So let's just raise them up. So we can see we have all sorts of different little things, like we have this many of X, this many of Y. This doesn't matter. Like, yes, it matters at a point. Like, at a point it matters. If things are really close, maybe this can tip the balance in your favor, what your exact army composition is. But from a straightforward level, this doesn't matter. What matters is numbers. If your number is higher than their number, you will win a battle. So if you have 1,000 men, they have 900 men, most of the time, you're going to win the battle. Assuming that everything else is absolutely even. But, let's just raise up our troops. Now you see there is actually another option on here as well. Hold control when you click to avoid raising levies where there are hostile armies. So this is useful if you're perhaps being raided. Somebody's come over with some troops. You're not necessarily against doing the war, but you don't want to raise up your troops. You don't want to have like your 10 troops fight their 1,000 troops until you've actually got all your troops together in one army. So what you'll do is you'll control click, you'll raise up your troops, you'll move your army over, chase off all the other armies that are in your land, then you'll raise up the rest of them, which is useful. But we're not going to care about that right now because we're just going to, we have nobody in our lands. We can see that. So there we go. We've got all of our troops. Next one is from vassals. We have two options here. We can call tribal or nomadic vassals. We don't have any. Or we can press control click to call in all of our allies to the war. Now, we can't call allies into this war. Why not? Well, basically because there aren't cascading alliances in this game. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, if we are an ally of someone else and we have been called into a war, we cannot call our own allies into a war, and because that just leads to hell. Because what could happen is you end up having, like, the problems with that kind of system is, okay, I get called into a war by someone else. I call in, say, an ally. Let's say my ally is the Holy Roman Emperor. He has, like, 10 allies. He calls them all in. They all call in 2 allies apiece. And it's just kind of, it's not very easy to plan for if you're a player. So they just don't have that in the game. So we can't call in other allies. Fair enough. Next button is raise vassal levies. We can see what it's made up of. We've got the same options here. We're just going to raise them. And there you go. That's our vassal levies. You'll also see down here, all of these little bits turn to red and say that they're now like 0 people that can be brought in. Like 0 out of that. That basically just means we have raised their levies and we cannot raise any more right now. Right. So we are going to grab our stuff here and we're going to merge up. Right. So what I did is just bounding box, left click, kind of drag, and then just right clicked on the province I want them to move to. So we'll get all of our armies just moving together as one. Right. So now that's happened. Oh, we need to do something else as well. But now that's happened, we'll see that we need to kind of merge them together. There's still like 5 armies. They're not actually one army currently. And we want them together so that we can have one set of commanders leading this army, opposed to having 5 armies who are kind of independent, and perhaps one moves slower than another one, because one army has an organizer that makes everybody go quicker, and then the other armies don't. You then end up with a problem where you have a very small army going into fight, while you need it all kind of unified. It also helps when you're looking at this little outline over here, you can see exactly what your strength is. So, we're going to merge them up. First option for merging them up is click the merge up button. Second option is you press G and they merge up. Fairly straightforward stuff. Now, you'll see that we have this little thing here. And this shows us that we have 3 flanks. And this is how every army in the game is made up. It's made up of 3 flanks. The AI sometimes doesn't make use of all of them, but 3 flanks is the way it works. And at each flank you have a certain amount of troops. Fairly straightforward. You have 1 center, 1 left, 1 right. So, each flank has to have a commander. And the way the game basically works is when you go into combat, each flank will face off against the opposing flank from the enemy. So say your left flank will face their left flank, your center flank will face their center flank, your right flank will face their right flank. If your flank wins first, like say your right flank wins first, it will then join your center flank and get a bonus. And then they will both be attacking their center. So that's basically the concept of how combat goes. Basically this goes until one side loses enough troops or loses morale for the fight. They then retreat. So, we need to put in commanders who are reasonably good at fighting. So, we'll see here, this little number is their marshal, right? This is the marshal of the guy. And that's the baseline for how good they are at leading an army. Like, without anything else, that's how good they are at leading an army. This will affect what kind of tactics they choose. This will affect random rolls, so more often than not, things will be better the higher the marshal will be. Now, if we hover over this, this guy doesn't actually have anyone. Let's go into here and see if I can find a better example. Alright. Well, that's not a better example either. Is that really all of our commanders, or do we not have it? We have no more commanders? We have more commanders. Ah, okay. So, what I did to get here, by the way, council. It was on positions, it went to minor titles, scroll down, we can see our commanders. The reason I was wondering whether we had more commanders was because I wanted to show you off something, but I can show you something else at the same time. If we hover over our commander here, this guy with 2 marshal, we'll see that he's also our steward. And as if you remember last time, well actually 2 times ago, I went and clicked none of these guys are allowed to lead armies. So, we need to make it so that our steward is not leading an army. The one below is our spy master. He also can't lead an army. So, let's click on these guys and see who else we have. So, it sorts by marshal. We have Simon. He is our son. He has nothing special about him, but his marshal is 7. He can lead an army. There we go. Now we have this commander. We want to get rid of him. And if we go down the list, hopefully I can find somebody who actually has a... Alright, there we go. We have somebody who has a negative thing. So hover over the shield. This would also happen if you hovered over the marshal value in the other screen. You can see what this guy's combat modifier is. So he starts with 0 marshal, and then he is also a craven. Now craven's a particularly bad one, because not only does it lower their morale defense stat by 20%, it also gives a lower selection of tactics that are available to him. So basically different traits can give different tactics, and this one basically means that he is awful. He will not do anything that will be positive to you. He just is not good at leading armies. So you really want to avoid craven people. And then our other option, down here for court physician, he also has 0 marshal, so he's not good. And then we have Guy and Benoit, and neither of these guys are good. They're both absolutely awful because if we have a look over them, this is our steward and this is our court chaplain. They're not allowed to fight. So we have pretty much all the commanders that we can have. We're going to resign this guy. The reason we're going to resign him is because he can't be in charge of an army. So, you'll see, we don't actually have enough commanders. So what we can do about that, we can go to the Intrigue tab. Then we can go down here a little bit, and we want to go to Invite Noble to Court. Actually, no, Promote Commander. Sorry, this is the right one. Promote a soldier from the ranks of your army to lead troops on the battlefield. We pay 15 gold, 25 prestige, and then we get a soldier named Loop who arrives. Loop, the Pontigne, I guess is his name, has arrived at your court ready for employment. So we can just make him a commander right now. So he has 21 martial, and here you can see here, he has a little commander-only trait. Now, if we hover over the thing, it says he is experimental, he's a trickster. Now, this trait is also a trickster. It makes you think that it is a good trait. It's an alright trait. Overall, it means he is a good commander, as in he is generally quite a good commander to have it, but a trickster means that he has a wider variety of tactics to use. Some are really good, and some are really bad. So trickster basically puts you in a bad position sometimes. So if you want consistency, you generally don't want trickster as your trait, but we are going to take him because he has 21 martial, and generally he's much better than anyone else we have. There we go. So now when we hover over our army, we can choose who we want in the center. We probably want Loop, because if we look at him, he has 21 martial. Although we won't choose the best tactics 100% of the time, he's still generally a pretty good shot here. Like, generally, he'll be alright. On our right flank, our second biggest one, we want the second best person. So we're going to put Henri here. He has 13 martial and nothing special about him, so he will do. Then on our third flank, we're going to put Robert, who again, nothing special about him, but he has 13 martial, so he will do. Right. There we go. So basically, hover over this and you can see what kind of special stuff they have. And if you click on the name, you can also go into this menu and hover over the shield and see what special stuff they have. Right. That is our army kind of merged together and set up. Next thing we want to do is we want to select a childhood focus for Hel. Hel is our granddaughter. So this is Henri's second daughter? First daughter. Okay. So, she appears to be alright straight off from diplomacy, martial, and stewardship. We may want to give her a focus. In terms of a focus, there isn't really a great option available right now for us, because there's nothing that we want her to be necessarily. So maybe we'll just go something like etiquette or humility, and basically just go for something that's likely to give her more diplomacy. That's fine. There we go. Just try and make her a good diplomatic character. Now, there is something I haven't mentioned that could be useful when educating children. So, who's our second in line? Hughes. We'll go for this. So, Henri, Hughes. So, we have our grandson here. And we'll see that he is an educator. And he is our son. Now, Hughes is... We're trying to go into the childhood focus of thrift. And we want him to be good at kind of stewardship stuff. But we also want him to have the other stats as well. If we have a look at Henri is not very good at stewardship. He's okay at martial. He's okay at intrigue. He's not very good at diplomacy, and he's not very good at learning. So really, he's not the best educator for Hughes. So, what we can do here is we can right-click on Hughes, and we can hopefully go to Assign Guardian. There we go. At age 6, a guardian can be entrusted with a child. Guardian's culture and religion. Is this the right one I'm looking for? Yes, I think it is. I think they just changed the name of it. It used to be Educate Child, but maybe that's only after the 12th now. Anyway, so we can choose somebody who we want to be in charge here of this person. So we can look for better stats, basically. So we're looking for higher stewardship, and we want kind of a balanced stat line. So we could have our Marshal, Hughes, could look after him. We could have Guy look after him, who has really high diplomacy and reasonable stewardship. His martial, it leaves a little bit to be desired, but generally as a leader you don't want to have high marshal's useful, but high martial isn't as useful as a leader because you're not going to be in charge of armies directly, which is one of the main benefits of it. Anything else popping out here? I don't think there is actually. I actually think that his father is generally an alright option. We would probably be alright at educating him. Actually, looking at it, we would be fine at educating him apart from diplomacy. Yeah, I think we'll educate him for a while, actually. There we go. And that also means that we can see what kind of stuff happens when you're educating a child. There we go. Right, we are going to move our army, and we're going to just kind of tell it we want you to go along to Barcelona right now. It's in friendly territory, and we're just going to get him to walk along. And we'll talk about battles when we get there. So, we're just going to walk along here. There might not be any battles, but we'll see. God's blessings upon thee, Dauntus Robert. The Order and God cares much for the souls of our members. As such, we would like to advise you to go on a pilgrimage, since you have not yet done so. Go with God, signed Conversus Aldebert. So we can say yes, and we can accept the the mission go on a pilgrimage. If we accept this, we have to go to the intrigue menu and we have to complete a pilgrimage. If we decline this, then we just don't get another mission for some time. Now, what do missions do? This is a monks and mystics thing, very much. But I believe that missions give you higher devotion. And higher devotion then allows you to move forward and rank up in this order that we are a part of. So, we are going to, of course, accept the mission. And we're going to be happy with it. And then we're going to die. Okay, well that's definitely unexpected, but there we go. You have a new heir. If your character dies now, you'll play as Hughes de Bourgogne, who is our son now, or was our grandson. Benoit is no longer our court chaplain. Duke Robert has given up the ghost at age 56. He died under suspicious circumstances. Now, this is a code word that the game uses, which is important to know. This means that somebody specifically used a plot to kill you. This is not we died naturally. This is somebody basically had a plot going, had an intrigue plot going, specifically to murder us. So, that's it. Somebody wanted to murder us. Important to know. Or wanted to murder our father at this point. A chaste man, his honour was beyond refute. A godly man, Robert is with Jesus now. Duke Henri II, being a talented military tactician, we expect him to lead us to many victories on the field of battle. Long live Duke Henri II. Now you see, it says pretenders. Pretenders are everybody, I believe, who has a claim on your title. So that would be all of, well, it says all of our sons and daughters, because they were the next in line, I guess. Because we have primogeniture. So we're going to say, so be it. I think if we maybe they don't have a claim on our title, maybe they're just the next people in line. Yeah, they're just the next people in line. Okay. So, we can see we now have new line of succession. It's pretty much exactly the same as the old one, but we're now in charge. Let's see what we got. Let's check our council out. So our council, fairly similar. It's actually exactly the same council, apart from we don't have the same court chaplain, for whatever reason. So that's important to note. Do we have the same alliances we used to have? We don't. We have we have a non-aggression pact with Duke of Barcelona, but no alliance. And the other alliance is not an option anymore because they are too far away from us in the family for that to be an option. Actually, was that our mother that we got the other alliance through? I can't remember. No, I can't remember who exactly gave us the other alliance, but we can't have it anymore because basically we're a new character. So what we want to do is we want to shore up this alliance with the Duke of Barcelona, which we will do. We want to get our council sorted out. So council, all pretty much the same apart from our court chaplain, who we will now assign. We could put in Aldebert, who would seem to be a good option. He has really high learning. We'll put him in. Then we'll get him to hunt apostates. There we go, hunt apostates. Interesting. It seems like they automatically set an option for you now. They just set a passive option, and then you have to switch. Because when I clicked the button there, that gave him a job and then took away a job. It also changed my map mode. The map mode I play in 90% of the time is the Realms map mode. Basically, you press W, and then you're in the proper map mode for the game. Right. Next problem. Weak claim can be pressed on the Kingdom of France. So, is this our claim? This is, yes, we have a weak claim on the Kingdom of France. Now, why do we have a weak claim? Well, our father had a strong claim on the Kingdom of France. However, we're one step past, so we have inherited a weak claim. Weak claims are different. Weak claims are, basically, female rulers if the claimant is a male, regencies, titles already being contested in a claim or succession war. So say there's already a little bit of confusion about who's in charge of some land. Basically, this is simulating something like there is a new king on the throne. Then somebody else declares their strong claim. They're like, no, I should be the king. Now you could be like, well, there's a bit of confusion. Actually, I have a claim to this. I should be the king. And that's basically saying that's where you can use your weaker claim, because there's already a little bit of uncertainty. Right. And then titles, the claimant is second or third in line to inherit. If you're second or third in line and you have a weak claim, it's a little bit stronger because you're already in line to the throne. So, we can press it right now because our liege is in a regency, because he is below the age of 16. Now, This would mean that right now, if we declared a war, we could go independent and then try and declare war for this to become in charge. If we lost the war, I believe we would be imprisoned by our liege, and then I imagine either our lands would be revoked or would be executed depending on kind of realm laws. So we don't really want to do that. He also has 11,000 troops, and we have 2,000 troops. So it's not really a good option, but we could press it if we wanted to. That's pretty much the option we got there. Also, it will not be inherited unless we press it in a war. So unless we actually try and get this claim to mean something, this will not be our son will not inherit a weak claim. Okay. So, next thing we need to do is pick an ambition. Our ambition, do we want to become paragon of virtue? Be really pious? Do we want to become the King of France? Do we want to acquire a title? Do we want to become a councillor? Or do we want to groom an heir? Well, we already have an heir. So I think that we want to probably become a councillor. I think that makes sense. We want to get the prestige from it. So we're going to do that. There we go. Right. Next option, we need to pick a character focus. Basically, becoming a chancellor. Right now, it would increase our opinion of our liege if it goes through. But you get prestige per month for being on our liege's council. And our liege should have a spot open on his council because we were just part of it. So we are probably a powerful vassal within his realm asking for a title. Or asking for a place on the council. So he should probably give it to us. Right. Choose a focus. Our focus right now... Well, we already have a lot of children. So we don't need fertility. We're 30, so we're likely to live a little bit already. So we don't need a health trait. Also, I was wrong previously. There is one extra one that gives health, which is theology. I'm not sure if it always gave health, but it's not one that I take very often. Right, we could try and push ourselves forward on martial, become really good at martial, and then be able to raise more troops. Which is a way to go. We could try and increase our stewardship, which would allow us to hold more land personally. We don't need to do that right now, because we only hold one out of the two that we can hold anyway. So that's not really something we need to. It would increase the amount of money that we make, but it's not necessarily great. We go intrigue or seduction. Both of these seem like alright options. These would basically allow us to spy on people or to sleep with people. And this would increase opinions, increase the effectiveness of our plots. And actually I think that might be a good way to go, given that this would allow us to do a little bit more sneakiness within a realm. So let's do that. Let's try being a little bit more sneaky with this character. So we're going to take intrigue. This will put intrigue to be our highest stat at 14. Unlocks the option spy on and free from captivity versus suitable targets. So we're going to do that. Right. Next thing that we need to do is we need to select a new commander, because we were a commander and we don't take up a commander slot basically. Like previously when we weren't in charge we were commander, but now that we're in charge we could just lead armies if we want to. Let's put in a new commander. Do we have anybody available? Well, Benoit could do it because he's no longer our court chaplain. He is Craven, however. We have a spy master, we have our steward, we have our cousin, but he is also Craven, and then we have Aldebert, who is our court chaplain. So actually, right now, we don't have anybody we want to be our commander. We also don't have enough prestige to buy one, so we're just going to kind of leave that blank for just now. I think we're fine leading an army right now. I wouldn't... Actually, no, we could put Simon to lead the army. I was going to say, I wouldn't recommend leading an army yourself unless you don't have anyone else available. We have Simon. He's not so good, but he could lead that army for us. Right. Our council is discontent. Basically, what this means is our councils can join factions against us. Because, well, we're a new person in charge. They can be unhappy. It also means that they will not vote for anything that we're trying to do. They're basically just discontent. They're just awful. Like, they're just kind of generally awful for a month. And then they're back to normal after that. Last thing I want to do before we do anything else, and before we go and finish this war, is we are going to choose a society. Because previously, we didn't really get to see very much of a society. Let's see what we can join. Let's see what our options are. So right now, we have the Dominican Order and we have the Benedictine Order. And we can only join these two because, if we have a look at the Hermetic Society, we do not have 10 learning, which our father had, so he had the option of joining it, but we cannot join this. At Lucifer's Own, we are not a sinner. So, Which one are we going to join? Let's just join the same one our father did. Let's join the Benedictine Order. We didn't really get to see very much of that. And we will pay the money to get in. God's blessing, Duke Henri II. We're delighted by your decision to join our ranks as a lay member, Duke. Together we will strive for the betterment of ourselves and our fellow Catholics by following the rule of Saint Benedict. Go with God, signed Conversus Aldebert. Perfect, we will join that. And there we go, we get our fancy new haircut, which looks awful. And we are ready to move on. But I'm going to end the episode here for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.